But we're going to have Mike first. It's an honor to have Mike. Mike's been with us since the beginning of Spirit of Health when we opened here in Grandview. He's the only one that's still here of the first people we hired when we first moved here to Grandview. And he's awesome. He loves herbs. He's always researching new things. Vaughn, what do you think about this? I found a better quality of this. And so he's really passionate about, obviously, God, people, health, what we believe in, but finding the best of what God created to help people get well. And as we always like to say, get off of the man-made system, get onto God's system of all the abundance He gave us to provide health, wealth, healthy life with God. So Mike's going to do a little class on teaching us how to utilize herbs. I've always jokingly called our herb section God's Weeds. So this class is called Utilizing God's Herbs, and he's going to give you some ideas on all the vast ways that you can use these herbs because, well, we just don't know. We haven't been educated. We've lost that ancient traditional wisdom that was available a few centuries ago that you don't find today. So we're all hoping to bring some of that back, and so I hope you enjoy Mike's class. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's good to see a lot of interest in herbs. It definitely is a passion of mine, and love learning about all the cool things that God created and the herbs and the foods that He gave us. I'm always experimenting with new exotic fruits and different things I'm bringing in because there's all sorts of cool stuff that God created and have different effects on the body. Some herbs are more like tissue specific, will affect different glands, and so I love learning about all the ways that we can have better health and partner with God in our health by utilizing the things He gave us. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to fit a whole bunch of information in 1 hour, but I'm going to try, and I know we're already running a little bit behind. So hopefully this will give you a little guide and some herbs, some of my top herbs, our top herbs that we like to utilize for different purposes. So this first page, I probably won't go through all of this, but it'll give you some information, just some things that I like to throw down. But to start out with a couple scriptures that I like to start with. The first one, it says, and God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food," in Genesis 1:29. That was His original design. He said, "I gave you everything that bears a seed to be your food." That's fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, grains. But so we're always trying to get back to that original design. It's a different world of today, and I'm not going to go through all of that, but that was His design, that we would be able to fully self-sustain off of that stuff. The next scripture, it says, "He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, that He may bring forth food out of the earth." So just a couple things to think about. Yeah, and herbs, to a lot of people, it's kind of a new thing, herbal medicine, but really that was the norm for the longest time. And herbal medicine goes back written history over 5,000 years. And so I just imagine God in the beginning in the garden when He created Adam going, "Hey, you use this for this and eat this. And if you got a wound, take this leaf and put it on and it'll heal your wound. And when you got pain, use this bark of this tree and boil it and it'll take away your pain." And Him teaching about all this stuff, and it just got passed down over thousands of years. But yeah, written, recorded record over 5,000 years. And I have a spot in here somewhere that this was a couple years back, but the World Health Organization estimated that 80% of people worldwide, this was just a couple years ago, still relied on herbal medicine as part of their primary health care. And in Africa, it said it was up to 90% use it as part of their primary health care. We're in the Western world, it's a little bit different about medicine and all these pharmaceuticals, and that stuff is just kind of a joke to me. If you ever hear the commercials about, well, take this and it'll help your depression, but you might die and your heart might explode and all this, you might die of an aneurysm, and it's just crazy. So we've strayed a lot from God's design. And so I'm always trying to understand how He designed us, how we can partner with Him in every area of our life. We're body, soul, and spirit. So all of that. And again, I don't have time to get into all of that, but because I want to get to the herbs. That's why you guys are here. But I like to give a little bit of an overview. And understanding, too, that I like to learn about the body and the herbs and how to use them. But it's ultimately God who's the healer. But either supernaturally, which I love that aspect, too, but also He designed us a certain way. Just like you design a car. You design a car to run on certain fuel. You design it to be the oil changed every so often. And if you don't follow these little protocols and change your air filter, what happens to that car? It gets gummed up. It doesn't perform the way it was designed to. And it's the same way as our body. So I love God's supernatural healing, but also he designed us in a practical way to walk with him and to partner with him with everything. And so it is ultimately God that is the healer. But yeah, and there was a cool verse here too, or a quote from Benjamin Franklin. It says, "God heals and the doctor takes the fees." So kind of cool. They knew that even back then, that there's only so much that we can do, you know, but we do a few things and he does the rest. So it's kind of cool. Herbs are a little bit different than just a regular fruit and veggie that you would get at the store because of, and I have it in the bottom paragraph of this first page, they're non-hybrid vegetables. So in today's world, so many things that we eat that you go to the store, they've been hybridized, they've been genetically modified, they've been altered in a way to produce mass quantities and make them taste sweeter and all this stuff, and they've lost the original thing that God put in them because man has gotten in and messed with it. So a lot of these herbs are still, they're still in their original form. They haven't been hybridized, they haven't been altered. I mean, some of them have, but for the most part, these herbs are still, find them growing in the wild. And a lot of the herbs I get over there, they're wildcrafted because they're the strongest herbs. You find them growing naturally in their habitat. They're not farmed and babied and all that type of stuff. Some are organic too, but I try to get wild ones because they're the strongest and they haven't been altered. So that gives them a different electrical content, medicinal compounds. There's all sorts of cool things in herbs that I'm not going to get too in depth with, but tannins and alkaloids and flavonoids and coumarins and all these cool things that, you know, we all only think about like, well, what's the vitamins and the minerals, you know, and how much carbs does it have, and that's important too. But there's all these little things that make these very strong effects. So, how to use herbs? Oh, and I put this quote up here too because I love this from Hippocrates, and he's known as the father of Western medicine. It said, "Let your food be your medicine, and your medicines be your food." And that's the way we're supposed to live. So how do you use herbs? Because we've got a bulk herb section over there with over 200 bulk herbs, powders, teas, and I get it all day long. Well, what do you do with these things, you know? How do I use them? And I get it, you know, and I mean, I'm a simplistic guy, so my thing would just be, I don't care, just do it. Just get it in your system, figure it out. But I'll give you some guidelines. But they are foods. So a lot of these, there are some that are a little bit more potent you got to be careful with, but for the most part, these are foods. People grew up eating them and cooking with them, and so I always get the question of how much and be careful, and you know, because we think about medicine, and although they are medicine, but they're naturally, they bring balance to the body. They are whole foods. So you could do larger amounts of them, you could do less amounts of them, and it's not going to be harmful for the most part. So there's several different ways that you can utilize herbs, and so these are some of the main ones that I like. So starting with herbal tinctures, and I didn't give you a handout right now with how to make herbal tinctures, but I have them over on the table if you want them. I know not everybody's going to take the time and make tinctures. I particularly like tinctures, and I put it first on the list for a couple of reasons. So tinctures are basically a liquid extract of the herbs. You can make them more concentrated. They're more bioavailable. Your body can absorb them very quickly, absorb and get them. And it's a way of preserving that. You make a tincture and that's good for years and years and years, and you don't have to worry about storage and it going bad, and you can just have it, squirt it, and simple way of taking herbs, in my opinion. And we sell tinctures, but you can also make them yourself. So I have a guide over there on the table that you can grab with how to make them, simple methods of how to do it. But yeah, especially with people with digestion issues, you know, you're not consuming the whole herb and having to digest it to get all the nutrients out of it. It's already bioavailable in a liquid extract. And you usually do a mixture of like water and alcohol. Some aspects of the herbs are more water soluble, and some need some stronger stuff to pull that out of, which was the alcohol, where that comes into effect. So you have a mixture of water and alcohol. It pulls those active ingredients into the liquid, and then it can be absorbed very quickly. If you're worried about the alcohol, you're taking a really, really small dose, and it's like a 50-50 mixture of water, alcohol. It's not a big deal, but if you don't want the alcohol, you can just put it in a little hot water. It'll evaporate out the alcohol, and then you just have your herbs. So tinctures are a great way. Again, I love them. I make them. I play around with different mixtures, and you can just have them in a hurry. It's easy to do. You don't have to make a tea. You don't have to make a smoothie. So that's one cool way. Teas are another good way. If you have the time, and especially in the wintertime, I like to make teas. And so I put some basic instructions here. Some of the lighter florally things that are more delicate, leaves and flowers. You don't need to really boil them for that long. You can just put them in hot water or boil them for a couple minutes. If it's like a root or a bark or something more dense, you want to actually boil them for several minutes. And down here I put up to 10 to 15 minutes to really get out the active properties into the liquid. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your time if you just pour hot water over some roots. You might get a little out, but you really want it for roots and barks and these more dense things, which is usually where more of the medicinal compounds are found. You want to boil them for a while and then let them steep too. But those can be made pretty simple. I do it the old-fashioned way. You can get the little tea balls and all that, but I just dump my herbs in a saucepan and boil them. And then when I'm done, I pour them through a strainer and boom. So it doesn't really take that much time either. And you can make up a big batch of that at a time, and you can store it in the refrigerator and it'll keep for a few days. The next two things, infusions and decoctions, are basically a tea but stronger. So ways to get even more out of it if you want to take that time to do it. So basically infusions are more for the delicate parts of the plants, and where you put them like in a glass mason jar. You cover the herbs with boiling water and you let it sit for 30 to 45 minutes or overnight. And that way you're gonna pull more of those active compounds into the, so if you have the time to do it, that's a good way to get extra benefit out of those herbs. Decoctions, kind of along the same lines, but using the harder part of the herbs. If they're seeds, if they're roots, barks, that type of stuff. You can boil them for a little bit, but then again, put them in a container and let them sit. And even in some of our teas, we recommend that you put them in a mason jar overnight and then boil them afterwards to pull more of that out. So that's ways to get a little extra, and then you can just use the raw herbs. Honestly, I like doing a lot of these different things. I kind of dabble with all of them, but I do like the idea of using the raw herb in its pure form, because you're actually getting everything out of that herb the way it was designed. You can get some extra benefit from extracting and all that, and the absorption better, but I like to utilize the whole herb sometimes, and just powders. I like making smoothies, so you can put powders right into your smoothies. Sometimes I'll just put them in my hand and throw them in my mouth, and that's you can taste and really see the richness of the herbs and get the flavor for them. And that might be weird to some of you guys, but you can capsulate them. We sell them in capsules, or you can buy empty capsules and put them in capsules, and then you have those with you to just pop on as you go. So yeah, obviously you can cook with this stuff too. I guess I didn't put that on here, but yeah, there was something I didn't think of even the other day, and it was a powder, and I was trying to tell somebody how to use it, and they're like, oh, I think this would be good in a soup. I was like, I never thought about that, but yeah, you can make soup and put them in there, and that's great. So like I said, you've got tons of options on how to get herbs in your system. If they're fresh, you can put them in your salad. You can juice them. I like to juice some of my herbs: cilantro, mint, lemon balm. So some of that type of stuff. Red raspberry leaf, nettles. If you find that stuff, you can just juice it or throw some in your salad. So that's a little bit of how to utilize some of those herbs. I know I went kind of quick, but I wanted to get to a little bit of some of our favorite herbs and why and what they're used for. I could go all day long on that, and I was really, even with the descriptions on here, I just put little basic descriptions. You could write whole pages, whole books on each herb and all the different stuff that it can do. But I wanted to give you the main points to make it simple. And then maybe when we're done, I can take a couple questions from you guys. Anything that you would want to know, I can answer that at the end. So I started with herbs for stress and anxiety and like calming, relaxing. It seems like a big one that we get all the time. Everybody seems a little stressed and a little busy, and especially in our Western world of productivity and go and time lanes, and and sometimes I'm a very motivated go-getter type of person, but sometimes I got to find balance in my life, and God's shown me a lot on how to hey, go and find a peaceful place in the woods and just clear your mind and get some prayer and meditation time, and we need that balance. I don't think we're meant to be in this crazy busy world all the time. So but when we're busy, we get stressed and anxious, and it puts burden on our nervous system, our immune system, our glands. The adrenal glands get very taxed, and so that can affect a lot of this. So I start with holy basil, and if any of you guys have spent much time around here and talked about anxiety and all that, we talk a lot about holy basil. It's very different from the regular basil. It's a more medicinal kind, and it tastes a lot different. So holy basil is amazing for stress and for calming the system down. It helps to relax those adrenals when they're trying to go in fight or flight mode. It does have they've even proven that it shows pretty quickly to lower the stress hormones in the blood, cortisol and I don't remember what all ones in particular, but all these stress hormones, it helps to pretty quickly. You can take our liquid extract, and if you're in that crazy moment and you put some under your tongue, a lot of people feel it, and within minutes a lot of times. It's crazy. This calming, relaxing effect. Not drowsy, but just a calming. So I put some points on that on here. It is very good for the endocrine gland system, bringing balance to that, nourishing that, anti-inflammatory properties. And again, it's something you can cook with and use too. But the liquid extract is very quick in the moment to use. Chamomile, another great, it's a really well-known aromatic flower. But it has a very calming, sedative, soothing the nerves. People use it to relax before bedtime, but really anytime, because it's not strong enough it's going to knock you out or anything, but at any time of the day it could just help to kind of take the edge off and calm and relax, muscle relaxing. It's also good to soothe the digestive tract. If you got an upset tummy, that can help. Lavender is another one that we really like. Of course, everybody knows the smell of how awesome lavender smells, but it is very calming. People use the lavender oil. You can make a tea out of the lavender flowers, and it's a very calming, soothing effect. And good for headaches, also tension headaches. So it's a good one. Ashwagandha. What's cool? Just a quick side note as I think of little things. I'll throw them out, but God gave us all these different herbs, and it's cool that different ones grow naturally in different countries. They have different habitats they grow in. And, in the old days, you would have to be in that area to get access to that herb. And it's cool that in today's world, we can get access to any herb all over the world. So we have the best ones from the high mountains in different countries. And, so ashwagandha, I just think of it because it's one of the top herbs in India and in Ayurvedic medicine. But yeah, we can get access to all these cool herbs from all over the world right here at our fingertips. So ashwagandha is good for a ton of things, but I put it down on here because it is very good for calming you down. It's an adaptogenic herb, and it is energizing, but it's not stimulating. It's actually got a calming effect. Very good for the immune system too. So, but another good one to take if you're stressed, anxious, is it helps to soothe those adrenals. Kava kava. This is a little stronger one. One of the most powerful antispasmodics and muscle relaxers in the herbal kingdom. So this is a great one if you've worked hard, your muscles are aching, or you need help go to bed. It's going to really calm you down a lot. Very good for anxiety and all that type of stuff. So kava kava is a good one. Valerian. Valerian is well known for helping aid sleep and calming the nerves. So although it doesn't smell that good, I'll tell you about valerian. But one of the best ones for, a lot of times they'll use kava kava, valerian, that type of stuff in a sleep formula. And so I have a sleep tea out there and some other things that have a blend of this type of stuff. Skullcap is another good one. It's a nervine, a sedative, antispasmodic. So if you have cramps, but also good for the brain and the nervous system. It's a good one to help to calm down. So that's a good top ones. With each of these categories, you could probably talk about herbs all day about different ones, but I want to give you the main ones for each section. And then I've got herbs for energy, for the adrenals, for athletes. It's all kind of under the same category. These adaptogens. Most of these are adaptogens. It's a special class of herbs that only the best of the best herbs get called adaptogens. And the Russians started kind of coining things and terming them as adaptogens when they were doing tests with their Olympic athletes. They wanted to see what can we give our Olympic athletes to help them perform better, recover quicker, be able to perform under this stressful environment and keep doing it. And so obviously they were doing a lot with the diet and all that, but they started playing with these different herbs and rhodiola and Siberian ginseng and all this. And so they found that they would have a non-harming effect, but a way to boost and stimulate and get a higher effect out of these athletes. So what they work with basically helping your body adapt to physical, mental, emotional stress, helping the immune system, helping keep hormone levels high, helping balance the glands and strengthen the cells at the cellular level. So this is a class that I especially love, being an athlete and liking to have high energy. And so maca is the first one. It's probably one of my favorite herbs. It tastes amazing. It smells amazing. It's kind of got a nutty butterscotch taste to it. And so it tastes awesome in your smoothies. But it's amazing for boosting energy. It's got good amounts of vitamins and minerals, B vitamins. It's a good source of protein, but a very strong effect on the endocrine gland system. So the endocrine gland system, I think I've kind of mentioned that, but to give a little quick, it's all of our glands that produce hormones, neurotransmitters in our system. So your adrenals, your thyroid, your pituitary, your hypothalamus, in men, testes, women, your ovaries, that type of stuff. So these are very important to keep those balanced. And a lot of issues that people have with always being anxious and always, it's the glands that aren't in balance. And you can affect that with depression, and all that can be related to the glands. So maca is great for the entire endocrine gland system, but especially the adrenals, helps to boost adrenal function. So maca is great. Ginseng, and basically, I'm talking about all ginsengs. The true ginsengs are Panax ginseng is what you want to look for. And there's a Korean Panax ginseng, a Chinese Panax ginseng, an American Panax ginseng. Those are the true ginsengs. And it's one of the most studied herbs out there, period, and especially for physical performance. But, and they say that ginseng is probably one of the best herbs if you were to pick one for the human body. The Chinese were really big on it. It comes out of the ground and the root kind of looks like a little person, they said. It's got 2 little arms that stick out and 2 little legs. And so they said it was perfect for the human body. And so it helps to bring balance and strengthen the whole body. So some of the ones are a little more stimulating, like the Korean and the red Chinese are a little more on the stimulating side. The American is a little more balancing on the calming side. But ginseng is a great herb for the adrenals, for energy. I mean, even when I first didn't even know about herbs and I was an athlete, we knew that ginseng was for energy, But a great herb to take and balance the body, strengthen, boost immune function, all that type of stuff. Astragalus is another one. It's a great herb for the adrenals. It's a power herb for the adrenals. And it's a cellular proliferator. It helps to strengthen the cells of your body. So another big one in India. They use that a lot for all sorts of stuff. Licorice, another top herb for adrenals. The only thing I'll say about licorice, it's one of the best ones for the adrenals specifically. But if somebody has high blood pressure, it's probably not recommended because it can increase the blood pressure. But licorice is great for a ton of things. Ashwagandha, another great one for the endocrine gland system. I talked about that and its calming effect, but yeah, for physical performance, they coined the name, or they termed the name, I believe, the smell and strength of a horse or a stallion, something like that. They say it smells kind of funny, but the strength of a horse. You think about a horse and how powerful they are, and so they talk about ashwagandha and using and strengthening the body. So a lot of athletes will take that too. Schisandra berry, great one. It's an all-around immune or endocrine gland support. Also has a good effect on the nervous system. Rhodiola. Rhodiola is great for the brain and focus. So energy in a different way. Not a stimulant, but more of that brain focus. But it's known to oxygenate the cells. the Vikings were really well known for using rhodiola, and they would use it for strength and for when they would go up in the mountains. They say it would help to keep their strength levels high. So rhodiola is a great physical performance one for energy. On the next page, I got cordyceps mushroom. Cordyceps mushroom is one of the most fascinating things to me. I'll talk a little bit more about medicinal mushrooms, I think somewhere, or maybe I'll just talk about it now. But so mushrooms, I used to think it was kind of a weird thing, mushrooms, and they're kind of a fungus family, and just seems weird to me initially. But the more and more I understand it, and the Chinese and people used to use this stuff for thousands of years, and they say that when you actually look at the DNA and look closely at the structure of medicinal mushrooms, or mushrooms in general, we have more in common with mushrooms, genetically speaking, in our cells than we do with plants. It's crazy. So, and I don't even know all the depths of that, but I was reading and understanding, and we have more in common, closely related to that than we do plants. So, fascinating stuff. But cordyceps is probably one of the most interesting ones. I won't tell you all about it, but it's very rare and very prized. One of the most prized herbs over in Chinese medicine. So it energizes. It's good for the immune system. It opens up the oxygen pathways and helps you to uptake oxygen. So that's good for anything, especially athletes. But cordyceps is awesome, and I've got some really good brand new cordyceps products that I've got on the way that I'm really excited about, because there's different qualities you can get. And so I've done a lot of research into that. And Shilajit's the last one on this list. Shilajit's an interesting one because it's not an herb in itself per se. But Shilajit is this stuff that seeps out of the cracks of the mountains in the summertime. It's basically decomposed plant material from thousands of years. It's been squished in between the rocks. And so if you think about it, you could say it's thousands of different herbs all in one, in a very concentrated source. But they've done studies on it, and it's very energizing. It's got over 85 minerals in their ionic state that your body can just absorb. And they say that anything you take with Shilajit, it will help boost the effectiveness with. So in a lot of my blends, I add Shilajit in there. A, for the minerals, and it's good for a ton of things, and then it boosts the effectiveness because those minerals are so absorbable right into the cell walls that it can help to shuttle other things in there too. But they say Shilajit's good for all sorts of stuff, and it's amazing stuff. So moving on to the nutrient-dense herbs and superfoods, and I do have a superfood blend out there. And actually, just to mention before I move on, I created an adaptogen power blend. So basically all these adaptogens that I just got done talking with, and there's more. I like to experiment and put them in my smoothies, and it just kind of got exhausting. Like I'd go to make a smoothie, and a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I want to use all of them, and it just, every time having to open up containers and do it. So I'm like, I wanted to make a blend, A, for myself, that I can have it all in one, and then share that with other people. They can get access to all these different ones in one thing. So I created this adaptogen power blend. It's been a huge hit because it's all of the best adaptogenic herbs in one powder. So talk about good for everything: immune, energy, balance your hormones. I mean, like, you name it. Athletic performance. You can take it pre-workout, post-workout, you name it. And so we've gotten amazing testimonials. I even had a lady that's like a master herbalist of 40 years, and she called me up and said, "Hey, are you the one that created that blend?" And I'm like, yeah. And so she said, "I just want to congratulate you. Your blend is perfect." And she's starting to give it to her clients, and she's like, "I wouldn't change anything about it." And I'm like, whoa, that's great. I guess I am learning a thing or two. But yeah, so I've had some amazing testimonies of people using that. So if you haven't tried it, I would definitely recommend it. And then with these nutrient-dense superfoods, I only put some of the main ones, but I have a superfood blend out there in the bulk section that's a little more affordable, that you can get by the ounce. But anytime you can get these superfoods, it's the foods that are way higher nutrient content. And when we're talking about most of the foods around today are hybridized, and they're not done in good soils, and they don't have the right stuff. These superfoods are a lot more nutrient dense than what you're just going to get at the store. They have so you'll see the contents of some of these that I'll go through really quick. But my first one of my favorites, bee pollen. It's kind of an interesting thing. The bees get the pollen off the trees, and they do some stuff to it. I don't know what all they do, but they say it's one of the most nutritionally dense things on the planet in one single source. They say that a human being could live straight off of bee pollen and have everything you need right there. It's amazing. the things that bees do, and I could talk about the bees for a ton of times because they have all sorts of cool stuff they make and do, and it's fascinating. But bee pollen is not that expensive and amazingly nutritious. So it's got, it's one of the highest, richest sources of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, hormones, enzymes. Bodybuilders, athletes will use it because it's like a pure source of protein too. It has all 22 amino acids, most in their free form, so you can just absorb them, as opposed to if you eat a protein structure, your body has to digest it, get it down to the amino acids, and then utilize it. And in that process, a lot gets damaged and a lot's not usable, and it's really hard. It's harder on the body. So amazing stuff, bee pollen. Alfalfa, they call it the king of all foods. Alfalfa is another one of my top greens. They say that different sources will say different things, but the root systems of the alfalfa plant, they say 60 to 80 to 100. I've even heard up to 120 feet that goes into the ground searching for nutrients, and why it's such a strong plant. So yeah, I mean, it's powerful. So again, why they call it the king of all foods. If you know anybody that raises horses, and especially like race horses, they feed alfalfa to the race horses to beef them up. You know, and do we need meat for protein? No. The animals don't. So you can get good quality protein from these greens, and very high in these nutrients. Spirulina is another one of the things that could be classified as potentially one of the most nutrient-dense things on the planet. It's an algae. It's roughly 65% pure protein also. Very high in antioxidants, and it's good for even helping detox heavy metals and increase energy and stuff like that. So spirulina is amazing too, if you can get over the taste. It's not that bad, but we do have spirulina tablets now that I got those in, so you can just swallow them. Moringa is another amazing herb, if you will. It's actually a tree. It's a moringa tree, and you take the leaf of the tree. They call it the miracle tree. They've started to find this in like third world countries. And it's like they could end starvation just from understanding how to utilize these trees. And they grow and they grow and they grow, and they're very plentiful. And you take the leaves, and some people coin it as nature's multivitamin right there. It's got all these different wide variety of vitamins and minerals. And you can see, I put a couple little things down. It's got nearly 25% protein. It's high in antioxidants. It's got 4 times the calcium of milk, 4 times the vitamin A of carrots, 3 times the potassium of bananas, 25 times more iron than spinach, 4 times more protein than eggs. It alkalizes, an amazing superfood. So, and then chlorella. Chlorella is another one that's kind of in that category with spirulina, another algae. Very high nutrient dense, 60% protein. It's got the amino acids. I normally think about chlorella being a little bit better for cleansing and detoxing, specifically for heavy metals and chemicals in the body. It can be very good to bind to those things and pull them out as well. Any of these greens are really alkalizing and cleansing and detoxing too. We love greens. Turmeric, put that on the list here. Turmeric's amazing stuff, very anti-inflammatory. They say that one of the worst things that we're dealing with in the Western world is inflammation, and everybody has it. Some on more levels because of the foods we put, because of the stress, everything. We have inflammation, chronic inflammation in our whole body. And so turmeric has a very strong effect on inflammation, but it's also well known for the liver and the gallbladder. And also they're using it for cancer type stuff. It's got anti-cancer properties, and they're using it for brain function and helping. They've done studies on showing that it can either stop or reverse Alzheimer's. And so a lot of cool things with turmeric. It's a definite thing that I would look to get in your system. Camu berry. These berries that come from remote places around the world are all super nutrient dense. Tons of different berries all over the place. You think of goji berries. So there's a ton I could talk about, but I threw camu on here because it's one of the highest known sources of vitamin C. It's by weight, it's like 15% pure vitamin C by weight. It's got a high amount. And it's not, the typical vitamin C supplements you'll see today is ascorbic acid. It's a synthetic. They're making it in a lab, and it doesn't have, again, something that's made in a lab and it's only vitamin C. I mean, God's way smarter than that. When he makes vitamin C, he makes it in a different form, and he binds it with all sorts of other stuff. So that's the way you want vitamin C, in a natural way. It's not going to have the same effect when you have it in ascorbic acid form. So some herbs for cleansing and detoxification, because everybody loves a little cleansing. It is important. And so some of these are some of the stronger ones for detoxing and cleansing. Burdock root. It's great for cleansing the blood, the liver. It's also good topically as a burn healer, one of the top ones for that. So also helps with kidney. It's just a great all-around detoxing herb. Dandelion root, same thing. You can also use the dandelion leaves. The dandelion leaves are actually very nutritious. Everybody thinks dandelions are a weed, but if only we knew, most people knew that they're nutritious and they're medicine. And they're a prized thing. They're hard to get rid of because they get that root that goes way down. And why do you think it's a strong herb? I used to hate those things, trying to pull them in the garden. You can't get them and the root breaks off a foot underneath the ground. And but it's getting those nutrients and it's got that strong root. But great for the liver, great for detoxing, liver, gallbladder, spleen. It's alkalizing. It helps increase the oxygen carrying capacity of the body and the blood. Milk thistle, one of the greatest for the liver. So protecting the liver, regenerating the liver, cleansing the liver. So they use that for all sorts types of stuff like that. Chaparral. I've heard some people say chaparral is one of the greatest North American herbs. It's powerful. I know Vaughn's talked about seeing chaparral in the, he used to live in Vegas and getting it fresh and put it in hot water or something and see the oil come up. It's just loaded with good stuff, but a powerful cleanser for the lymphatic system, for the blood. The lymph system is one of the most important things. It's the sewer system of the body. I say one of the most important things. Everything is the most important thing in our body, but it's a neglected and not understood part. And it gets clogged. And the sewer system in your house goes out, it's a big deal, and it gets clogged. You don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen in your body because your body will become very sick. The cells will start dying. They can't get rid of their waste. They're in their own waste. So keeping that system strong is important. But it is very antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. And then red clover. You see these growing all over the place. Another thing that's really good, it's a powerful blood cleanser, blood purifier. Anything that purifies the blood, just a side note, is good for skin conditions. Because when the body has stuff in the blood that it can't fully deal with, it can't get out quick enough through the normal detox pathways, it's going to push it out through the skin and cause skin conditions, acne, psoriasis, eczema. So when you purify the blood, you purify the skin. And that's another thing in Chinese medicine that's really well known. Poke root, this is a potent one. Poke root's something that you need to be careful about, but when people that make formulas, they know how to use it. But poke root, if you find the poke plant, the poke berries are poisonous, but the root is a powerful detoxer, cleanser in small amounts. They also call it the tumor buster because it's so powerful for the lymphatic system. Cleansing the lymph system will help remove tumors and help lower tumors and help fight cancer. And so a powerful cleanser that I mix in some of our lymphatic teas and in some of the Dr. Morse lymphatic tinctures, and powerful herb. Uva ursi is especially great for urinary tract. A lot of people that get urinary tract infections, uva ursi is there to help out, but good for cleansing the system on a lot of levels there. And then yellow dock being the last one I put on here, very good for liver and blood cleansing as well. And yellow dock is very high in natural iron. So if there's women that need to increase their iron, that's a natural way. You can make teas out of some of these roots. Sarsaparilla is another one, very high in iron. You can make a tea out of that and get your natural iron from the plant. It's going to be a lot better than a synthetic or a non-absorbable way of iron. I've heard some crazy stories about people taking iron, prescription iron. You don't want to do that if necessary. So that's kind of all I put together. I know I kind of went through that a little fast and furious, but I wanted to try to get all that information in and wasn't sure how the time would come out. But it's come out about perfect so that I can maybe have some questions.
Can you give them just 2 minutes on how to take some of these herbs, like how to take a powder, easiest way to do it, throw in a smoothie, make a tea, just a couple minutes on that?
Yeah, I mean, and I went through that earlier. I went through all the teas and blends and powders and how to do all that. And again, those are whole foods, and most of them you could do in higher amounts. Typically a powder, if you want a rough dosage, half a teaspoon. of a single one, but you could do higher or lower amounts. So yeah.
So I know your herbs over there are dry. But you talk about using like raw and fresh herbs. What is like lost in the drying process? What's preserved? Like, should I be taking more dry than fresh? Or,
It's a good question. I don't know that I know exactly how to answer that fully, but I do know the medicinal compounds, the tannins, the alkaloids, all that stuff is still present. And even when you heat it, so some people concerned about boiling, it does damage some of the stuff. It will damage some of the water-soluble components. I do know that. I don't know exactly just in the drying process what's lost. Maybe some of the vitamins and stuff like that. But, some of the ones we have over there, like we have an alfalfa juice powder, and the way they do it, they juice it and they dry it in a process to preserve the nutrients and all that. But most of those you're using for the medicinal aspect of those compounds that I was explaining. But you might lose a little bit of the vitamins or something, would be my guess. Fresh is good, but yeah, dried is a lot, it's so easy to use and it's preserved for a while. Other questions?
Yes, so does the herb replace vitamins? So if you're taking vitamins and then you do the herbs, do you take them together? Do you take one or the other?
That's a good question. And I'll repeat these just so the camera can hear too. So the question was, if you're taking herbs, does it replace your multivitamin? Do you still need to take vitamins or can you get enough from that? It's hard to answer because it depends on how much your body needs and it's hard to know exactly. I mean, I would say that, yeah, it's possible to get enough from your foods and your herbs, but most people aren't going to eat enough good quality stuff and take enough herbs maybe, and so it still might be a good idea to have a multivitamin, multi-mineral. I don't personally take a multivitamin, but because I do think that you can get it from your foods, but again, it would vary on the individual. Yeah. Yes?
What about mixing herbs? How do you know what herbs, I mean, you made a good list here, but as far as mixing them, how does that work?
Yeah, how do you mix herbs? I do get that a lot because there is a little bit of a concern with the medical industry, and you don't take things together. It's very careful because with and a quick thing on medicines, pharmaceuticals, they're designed to force an action on the body, and when you have different things that are opposing and forcing an action, it can cause some issues. With herbs, you typically, 99.9% of the time, you can mix anything. And actually they serve to work together synergistically. They can actually help, it's like the one ox pulling the cart and he can pull 10,000 pounds and the other ox can pull 10,000 pounds, but together they can pull 25,000 pounds. It's kind of that same thing. Using herbs together can actually help to serve. So when I have these categories, you could basically mix any of those. For the most part, I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm sure there's certain situations with certain people it might not be a good idea, but with certain of the potent herbs, but for the most part, my understanding is you can mix those, and I've not had anybody ever had an issue. So.
You mentioned about Shilajit boosting the effectiveness of the other herbs or supplements as they mix together.
Yes.
And that kind of works in terms of the synergistic effect.
Yeah, good point about Shilajit and improving the effectiveness, and yeah, so a lot of my athlete blends, I do put that in. It does provide the minerals and then boost the effectiveness. And in me studying under Dr. Morse, I didn't cover a lot about that, but he makes all these formulas, and he loves formulas more than single herbs because, again, they work together, and he's a master at putting them together. Another quick thing on herbs, just as I think about it, talking about Dr. Morse, he used to think in the early days, and Dr. Morse is a kind of a world-renowned healer, been doing natural medicine for 45 years. We've all learned a lot from him. In his early days, he used to think that just diet alone, you could heal people. And, and in the purity of that, the way God created it, it should be diet alone. But there are these herbs that, he realized with certain situations in today's world, and people are so sick and have chronic, deep levels of stuff, that you needed to use these powerful herbs along with diet to get the effect that you need, because they are very, very powerful. So, any other questions? Yes?
What is the best way to prepare, you are explaining, what is the best way to prepare dandelion root?
Best way to prepare dandelion root? I don't know that there is a best way. I guess it would depend on what you're wanting to use it for. You know what I mean? Simply making a tea out of it. The Chinese were big on just making a tea. And
Cutting the leaf or
the root. Yeah, if you want to use the leaf, I would more just eat the leaf, like in a salad. And then the root more for the medicinal aspects. And I would boil it. I would make a tea out of it and boil it, you know, according to the instructions, you know, 10 or 15 minutes or even longer. And make a strong tea out of it, and that would be a good way. But you could tincture it too, and that would be a good way. But tea is a traditional way that they did dandelion a lot.
so you can just get the leaf. You can use like the root. You boil it and
Yeah, I would chop up the root and then boil it. And the leaf you can just eat and throw in your salads. And we have dandelion root dried out there as well. All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.